Ethan Klein is in yet another lawsuit. This time it's not with Frogan, Denims, and Casey Tron, but Noah Samsen over being called pro-genocide. We're going to do that today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and this is a Fast Facts video, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. So we have our plaintiff here today, Ethan Klein of H3 Productions. Of course, many of you know him from his ongoing lawsuit as with Casey Tron, Denims, Frogan. But now we've got another against one Noah Samsen, who is got quite the internet presence as well. In fact, I really didn't know much about this guy beforehand, but I've seen that, hey, he's got a big presence and he's got certainly a lot of views on his video related to Ethan Klein and others, which was entitled, as we see in Exhibit A, The YouTubers Who Backed a Genocide. A heck of a statement there by Samsen, putting Destiny, Turkey Tom, Mudahar, all there lumped in with Ethan Klein and saying, hey, all of these people, they are backing a genocide. And you can see right there in the video, which was posted a year ago, has 1.4 million views. So certainly this did circulate, this got out there. This was reacted to by people all over the internet. Of course, the Hassans of the world backing that up and totally putting their imprimatur, their stamp of approval on that, which brings us to our opening statements. So in this video that Noah Samsen posted called The YouTubers Who Backed a Genocide, he put out the position that Ethan Klein and others were pro-genocide, and that of course is related to Israel, the Gaza conflict, of course. Now, Klein threatened to sue Samsen if he did not retract that video, take that down. Of course, Samsen refused. He declined to do that. So on the very last day, right before the statute of limitations ran out, Ethan Klein decided to file a lawsuit. So let's check out this clip where he talks about dropping this lawsuit bomb.
It's been a while since I spoke about dear friend Noah Samsen, who had a penchant for accusing me of being pro-genocide. He thought it was cute. He thought it was fun throwing around such kind of heinous accusations, right? This guy supports genocide. In fact, he had even a video called The YouTubers That Supported a Genocide with Me in it. And, you know, that's the world we're living in. Here, I made a promise to him March of last year. And I think he probably thought that it had blown over. I think a lot of people probably thought it blew over. We had a nice little complaint there for defamation, for accusing me of being pro-genocide, in favor of genocide. Horrible thing to say about someone, by the way.
And let me put out here as a personal note, this is aside from the law, because we're going to get into the law, but obviously this is something that is thrown out there, I think, way too liberally, i.e. it's put out there if you've got one position or a position that doesn't line up with exactly what the Hassan Pikers of the world want you to say, you are automatically pro-genocide. I think that is something that is far overused. It's the same in tones of calling someone a white supremacist or a Nazi or a bigot or something else, just because they don't line up in the very tight square box of the official talking point. So on a personal side, I can definitely see where he's coming from and definitely understand that this is a horrible thing to say about just anybody who you happen to disagree with, who happens to take any other position than the exact position you come in on. So from that perspective, I do see where this is coming from to start.
One of the worst, I would say, maybe even, of all the things you could say about someone, you know. Well, we filed it, beating the statute by about 1 day. Now, most of the...
So that just means, hey, there's a statute of limitations that was going to run, so they had to file that complaint, or else it would have become null and void. The time would have ran out. So obviously, when it came down to the deadline, to D-Day, he said, okay, we're going to file this thing. When I see people filing at the last second, that typically is not a great thing, because it tends to me, if you have a stronger case, you typically would file it immediately. But well, I mean, at least he got it in. And that's all that matters with the statute of limitations, is that you get it in before that deadline.
The time people see these immediately, but we were under the radar. We filed it in Orange County, I believe, which is not trolled by media and press. So it went under the radar. Nobody even saw, until now, in fact, nobody knew that I was even suing Noah Samsen. Well, he knew since a couple of days ago, since he was served.
Now, one thing about Orange County is if prospectively they should get to a jury, obviously this is going to be a different jury pool than you would think in LA. So obviously a little bit more of a quote unquote conservative or different jury pool than you would necessarily get in LA, which might be more aligned with Noah Samsen if you're thinking about the overall jury pool and what that might look like.
but he's the only one. And it's important for me to know to the three women that it's not personal, right? I sue those who deserve it, who require accountability. And it was a terrible coincidence, a terrible one, that the three people I sued for copyright infringement were women. Terrible, right?
Of course, talking about Denims, Frogan, and Casey Tron, but at the same time, there were others that were potentially sued, that he was mulling over potentially suing. But obviously, that has nothing to do with gender, race, anything else. That was just, hey, the clear instances of copyright infringement in my assessment.
And I'm just happy that I've had the opportunity to rectify that, to set the record straight now, to sue a straight white man. And I think nobody should be more relieved.
No comment on any of his gender identity or preferences. I have no idea about Noah Samsen.
For that, to have that set straight, other than Noah Samsen himself, who's a woke, legendary king. And now he can rest easy at night knowing that Ethan Klein doesn't hate women. He just hates losers who do dumb and bad things. Gender, race, be damned. I come before you a simple man. And that's basically what I want. Know what it takes also. Yes, you are being...
I mean, I would say somebody would say a litigious man. I mean, obviously Ethan Klein has the wherewithal, has the funding to sue, the infinite money printer of Ethan Klein, where he will sue you. So that's something that I think at this point people should know on the internet and know around, is that Ethan Klein is going to sue you if you step out of line.
For defamation, a very good case, I might say, which I'm going to be happy to read you excerpts from today.
We'll comment on that.
But when his head hits that pillow at night, he can know that he lives in a just world where women are not bullied into silence. It's not about that. Gender equality is at the core of everything I do, and Noah as well. So take solace, my friends, all of you. So this document is actually quite important to me. It archives and sets forth for the record all the defamatory bullshit that has been peddled by Noah and everyone else across the internet. Baseless, disgusting.
Of course, to be very clear here, he can only sue Noah for things that Noah said, right? So what everybody else said about him, what might have been in the comments section, what might have been said by other reactors, what Hassan Piker said about it, that actually can't come in the lawsuit against Noah directly. But I get the greater point. The greater point is there are tons of people that feed off of this economy of putting out these defamatory statements. So one content creator posts something that's potentially defamatory, and then other people feed and leech off that. And now you've got hundreds or thousands even of people reacting, commenting, dropping posts related to that defamation and applying that moniker to you.
Hurtful accusations that I support genocide. This is about holding Noah Samsen accountable as one of the main peddlers of this horrible defamation. But in large, just defending myself, my name.
And he's got the company.
And this isn't something that's going to be litigated on TikTok or Twitter, which is where I know Hassan and Noah Samsen like to litigate such things. No, this is going to be litigated by a judge and potentially even a jury based on the facts.
If it gets forward there.
And I'm willing to put that on the line.
Okay, so we've got the case there laid out that he's willing to go for defamation. He's willing to go into court. He's willing to push this case. So what are we looking at? Well, this is California case, Orange County, California. And California defamation requires a false publication that tends to injure the plaintiff in their reputation or occupation. So on its face, you're thinking, okay, yeah, that's not good. Your reputation is not going to look good if you're pro-genocide. That's definitely going to hurt you from the perspective of Ethan Klein, his lawyers filing this case. Yeah, that's definitely not going to be a good look if someone says you support genocide. That's not a good thing. And of course, that's something that from the perspective of Ethan, when you hear that assessment made, you're saying, well, that's just an untrue statement. That's not factually true. But once again, as with many of these internet figures we cover here on The Legal Mindset, as a public figure, Klein must prove actual malice by clear and convincing evidence. Now, that is a very, very, very high standard. So you have to prove, Klein has to prove that he knew the statement was false or whether there was a reckless disregard for the truth. And the biggest hurdle, the biggest problem here for Klein, and the thing that gives me so much, it really gives me so much angst about whether or not this can make it over the initial threshold, is that opinion versus actual factual assertion dichotomy, that split. So if something is opinion or hyperbole, just somebody being hyperbolic, for example, when we look at cases involving people calling each other bigots or white supremacists or racist or whatever else, oftentimes that is taken by courts as hyperbole, as opinion, and therefore not subject to defamation. Defamation has to be a statement which someone believes is actual fact and is putting out an actual fact about somebody, not speaking in hyperbole, not speaking as a matter of opinion. And that's very difficult with something like saying they are pro-genocide, to say that was a factual thing, that they support genocide factually. Ethan Klein has to cross that barrier, and that's a very difficult barrier to cross in the law. And as we go into the argument here, California has a very strong anti-SLAPP statute, which is looking at protecting free speech. So what it's going to look at is, okay, is this a protected activity? Is this protected speech? And generally, free speech on public issues, such as the Israel-Gaza conflict, is considered a protected activity. That's going to be very difficult to cross that line and say, hey, no, this was actually an assertion of fact saying he factually supported genocide and not something that's discussing a public issue. Now, Noah Samsen can file, and probably will file, a special motion to strike the complaint, because under California law, if Samsen wins, Klein needs to pay his attorney's fees. So that will actually get Samsen out of that. He's able to win that motion. Now, Klein has to show, Ethan has to show he has a probability of prevailing, that he has a chance to win. So let's go to my judgment here. So in my judgment, in Orange County, California, jury pool will obviously be more favorable for Klein, a little bit more away from the insanity of LA. Obviously, it was pretty smart to file in Orange County. That's a better venue for him. And he does have a chance, but it is still highly likely to be dismissed by that special motion through California anti-SLAPP statutes. And if that happens, he's going to end up paying Samsen's attorney cost. However, if this survives anti-SLAPP, if by some chance, and I will tell you, I put the odds in Samsen's favor for prevailing on the anti-SLAPP, despite the fact that I think this type of speech on the internet has gone so far in terms of coming up with false narratives, in terms of painting people as horrible people, bigots, racists, white supremacists, pro-genocide. I think that's a horrible, horrible thing, but it's very difficult to get past these anti-SLAPP statutes. And if it does actually prevail, if he actually wins on this, this will be huge, because it will open the door to lawsuits against other people making similar claims across the internet. So for example, if Klein does prevail against Samsen, people like Hassan Piker might be opened up for all the defamatory statements they'd made. That would be a big move in California law towards moving the goalpost and moving that language into something that is potentially defamatory and punished. And while as much as I would like to see that, I think the odds are against Klein on this one. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.